Hello everyone, Prince Dabslot here. We're going to be talking about the, not part 2, but part 1.5 of the Delta Green campaign God's Teeth, the long years, indeed the time skip segment. So this is a very cool segment. There's a lot of ways you can handle this, so I'm just going to tell you all about how I did it with my group, and I think it was a success, and this is a really cool segment if you can pull it off. So without further ado, we'll be going right into it. So this is actually a fairly tricky segment to run. It should really only take you about one session, but reading so much in here in the book, so much of it just says, left up to the handler, which I think is true, and I think you need to figure out what you're doing here. But it's very open and very free-flowing to however you want to handle it and towards your group. This is definitely going to be the section that is the most dependent on your group, so any advice I give comes with the caveat of it might change, and just know your group. Do your group really want to get nitty-gritty with it? Then act out every single little scene. Do they want to do the zoomed out view of 15 years passing, then zoom it out? There's a lot of great advice on how to run this out there already, and this I see lots of discussion about it. So this is kind of contentious, and do what you want to do and what you think is best. But again, I'll go over what I did with my group. So as written, your team gets 3 home scenes to do, and I also did not run any scenarios in the long years because I feel like the point of it is for your agents to be separated and pulled away and completely outside each other's orbits before they all come crashing together in part 2, Red Thoughts. So I feel like having your team run scenarios together just unnecessarily takes away from the impact of the part 2 intro, which should hit like a truck, and it did. So don't run any scenarios is my take. What we did is I gave some handouts to my team, which I'll show you right now. So there's this great document at the end of part 1. It's before the character NPC stat blocks, so you might have to hunt around for it, but it's the survivors, and it lists how do they cope, what's the new normal, where were you in 9/11, what did it take to recruit you, and how did you make yourself useful? And I honestly just pretty much gave this to my players. One of my players, who is very much a Delta Green lore junkie, helped me make a document, which I'll post, which is slightly different, little less spoilery as far as like the ending bit about, being just a stopgap for the team or being just the preliminary investigation agent. So I'll post this in the Dropbox as usual. But yeah, it was nice, and then I had them all do this before coming into the long years, so it's like they all did their homework, which was cool, and let them think a lot about where they want their character to go. So, and if you want to help your team, I'm going to call out some great guides by Vince, a handler who runs an actual play and has this great blog. I'll link his actual play in the blog in the description. A Black Project Gaming, I believe, Black Project Declassified. And man, I wish this document existed when I was doing this, because this is a fantastic read up on getting what read into the program would look like. So that was huge. This is going to be hugely helpful if you do run it, just to understand the process of what your agents becoming part of the program is. Because as written in the book, it's kind of vague, and it more or less expects you to go read the handler's guide and figure it out from there. But the handler's guide is also slightly vague on how to do it, so definitely recommend this document. And while I'm on the subject of Vince's fantastic work, I really like his guide to investigations. Slightly off topic, but this is fantastic. I gave this to my team, and this is really important to have going into part 2, given the big investigation that begins. So the more familiar your team with is about how to run good Delta Green investigations, it will come in handy. And this is probably one of the best guides I've ever read about just the sheer mechanical expectations that Delta Green, the RPG, the game, puts on your players in the game, and how it both is gamified and how it expects you to act. So I would definitely hand this out. I have it printed out for all my groups, and I think it's on close to required reading. And my group also really likes the Guns of Delta Green that he put together, Vince Kaufman, that he put together, especially if one of your players is a gun nut. I had them read this in the long years and become kind of more of a gun nut as they went down the rabbit hole. This just has great rules for just increasing that tacticalness, that the grounded setting that it exists in. So definitely would recommend this as well. But the investigation guide, Peak, his blog, very good. So just overall good material for you to work with in the long years. So another thing that's important is when you're running these home scenes, and funnily enough, this is actually how I've always ran home scenes even outside of God's Teeth, and it's just a fantastic way to get everyone involved, and that's to have your agents assign the other agents as characters in their lives to act out these home scenes. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, a little awkward, a little theater drama kid at first, but it really does increase the tension, and it's led to some great laughs and some low lows, which is really what you're looking for in this game. And especially the low lows. But again, it says don't be brutal, don't divorce for nothing. But there's some great stuff, and it allows your players to act like a little DM for a scene, which is really where it's at. I mean, the home scenes are them crafting their character arcs, so the most you can do to support that, you want to go for it. So your agents will earn various vignettes based on the actions that they took inside part 1, or some other criteria. And a lot of it is very vague. Like, we're looking at, investigating Karpov and finding this Kostopsy. It mostly just says, oh, yes, the handler. It's up to the handler to figure out the rest of it. And so what I did is, we had the base roles here that I talked them through, but I also treated it as the chase scene with the chase rules inside the Delta Green Player's Handbook. The pursuit stuff, which was interesting and definitely I thought worked really well, where I let them name what skills they want to use and how they want to go about it, because I actually had the one agent take down the Kostopsy himself. Another agent took down Karpov, and they never physically crossed paths, but within months they crossed paths without even realizing it. Of one, the tax agent taking down Karpov with hitting him on tax charges, and then the other agent went in and blew up this Kostopsy, and that was really cool and a really great moment. And again, because it just leaves so much of it up to handler, however you want to do it, I really just took the pursuit rules, let them pick what skills they wanted to do, rolled some opposed rolls, and let them do it. And it was fun. It was a good way to see if they succeeded or not, and they did succeed. But this is definitely easy way to do it, which I would recommend, because you want this to be easy on yourself. And this is just to show that, the cult is destroyed, that the cult are not going to be the antagonists for part 2. You're really trying to differentiate the weird shit that happened to your players in part 1 from the cult. So they mentioned this other FBI agent that will put pressure on your players if they start poking around Karpov, which was really cool. This agent Bill Dorian, other side of the screen, this agent Bill Dorian, and I had him become more of a character. He pressured my players. He showed up, told them to leave him alone, don't go to Karpov, kind of threatened his family, and he was a good just background antagonist. And I had him reappear in between part 2 and part 3, where it was finally put an end to. It was just a great resolution, and it gave me some leads for my players to track down what happened to Gary Hall and Karpov and everything he was involved to. And it just made it a little more tense, let him get into it more. So I would definitely recommend beefing him up as a character a little bit, kind of have him be this background force that your characters your agents are sweating for a long time. So we're almost through it. And this happened when one of my agents wanted to use his home scene to stay on the case and find what happened to the kids. Very natural on the case. What are you going to do? I would have done it as an agent. So what I did, because the book doesn't actually say what to do if that happens, is I had him do the test that it mentions in part 2 for the Cornucopia house here. He let him pick what skills he wanted to use, explain how he was going to do it. And he didn't find any information when he succeeded. It was locked down, locked up tight. It was all sealed and everything, but he laid the trail for himself. So when we did this section again in part 2, he got 20% bonus to his rolls to do it, because he'd already spent a home scene on that. So that was really neat. And I definitely think that should change, because I was oh my goodness, what do I do? My agent wants to look at the kids. That makes perfect sense. So that's what I did, and I think it worked really well. And last but not least, before I go, I want to shout out the God's Teeth Handler Discord. If you're running this campaign and you're not a part of it, I would totally recommend you join. There's some great handlers in there, better handlers than I am, that are so full of cool ideas, great information, just so helpful, so friendly. So if you are looking for a place to bounce ideas off people and see what everyone else has done, I cannot recommend enough the Godseeds Handler server. So definitely go check it out. I'll put a link to it in the description. And that's going to be it. Again, you shouldn't be talking very much during this long years. A lot of this is player directed. You're just going to be handing out the vignettes, running through those. But really let your players take the stage for how they cope, how they went through it, their home scenes. It's all about supporting your players here and figuring out how they want their character arcs to go, because you need to take note of this so you can use it and abuse it later. So, and that's it. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back for part 3, hopefully sooner than this one. Part 2. Bye.